Hello, I'm Jane Voorhees, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about our family story. This is Millie and Ed Voorhees, our parents, on one of their painting trips. Millie and Ed both love to paint. Ed gets an early start on painting by staying in Manhattan after his workday to study at the Art Students League. Busy with their 6 kids, Millie gets a much later start in her painting career. Still, it is their creative approach to life, their willingness to do what they love, to make it happen and take risks that influence and shape all 6 of us, their children. They teach us that we can live the life we want, but we must create that life ourselves. We learn these lessons through everyday living. Mom teaches us to sew our clothes, and Dad how to build almost anything. They show us how to problem solve, making us each independent. Mom and Dad provide a big open studio filled with endless supplies and allow us to explore the possibility of both success and failure. It was a fun, chaotic, messy time. This is a bit of the story of the Voorhees family. Millie and Ed Voorhees meet in 1943 and marry after 6 weeks. Their wartime marriage lasts until Ed's death in 1999, 56 years later. Their story of living creatively is also a story of raising a family of artists. A mess of kids, a newborn baby, and Ed's a traveling salesman. This is life on a farm in Charlotte with 500 chickens and 5 cows. Millie has her hands full, but Ed looks very happy. How does one cope with a half-dozen kids? We band together with Millie's cousin's family, the Madisons. Now we are 10 kids and 4 adults living in the same town in New Jersey, sharing family meals, skiing trips, and summer vacations. Cousin Jane and Millie grocery shop together, and each week they squirrel away a bit of their food allowance to save for a small house rental on the coast of North Carolina. This is in front of that house. Days are spent at the beach with Millie and Cousin Jane fishing for dinner. We build we kids build sandcastles and swim in the ocean. If we collect enough bottles from the beach, we can use the deposit money to buy hush puppies from the local restaurant to go with our fish and grits dinner. Here we are together in Morehead City, down the street from where we will eventually live a few years later. Chapter 2: Millie and Ed's Big Adventure, the Bus Trip. One day, Millie and Ed have a brilliant idea. Take the family to California to visit Ed's family. Yet there's a dilemma. We can't afford to fly. Driving is problematic as well. 8 of us crammed in a small station wagon for days on end is neither feasible nor desirable. And eating out and staying at motels along the way would be much too expensive. Millie suggests buying an old school bus, turning it into a camper, and driving it to California. It's 1960. There are no RVs or even converted school buses on the road yet. Ed is skeptical. Yet Millie discovers a used 45-foot school bus in the Yellow Pages. They purchase it for $1,017.29. Ed begins the conversion. He builds 4 hanging bunk beds, a dining table that converts into a double bed, 2 lower beds over storage bins, a kitchen area with a sink and Coleman stove, and an old icebox and a chemical toilet in the back. He builds a bookcase for a full set of World Book encyclopedias. It stood next to the one remaining bus seat behind the driver's seat. We are ready to begin our journey within 2 weeks' time. We christen her the Turtle. The Turtle takes us across the country to California, to our destination, San Diego. On our trip, we stop at state parks and national parks, visiting Mesa Verde, the Grand Canyon, and the Dinosaur National Park. We have our World Book Encyclopedia to learn about these places before we arrive. We get to see the giant trees at the Sequoia National Park, but the Turtle breaks down and we have to be towed down the mountain. The repairs drag on. Meanwhile, Ed runs out of time off from work, so he has to fly home. Millie is left with a 45-foot bus, which she has hardly driven, 6 kids, and 2,000 miles to drive. She is 36 years old, but beginning to feel much older. At one point on this leg of the journey, Millie drives the bus into a state park late at night after everything has closed. She can't find a camping spot, so she pulls the bus off to the side of the road in the campground. At dawn, a park ranger wakes us up, banging on the door and yelling that we can't camp there. Millie tries repeatedly to explain that there were no other places to camp. He threatens to arrest her. "Fine," she says, "I could use a break. You can take care of these 6 kids." The ranger moved on in a hurry. Chapter 3, Moving to North Carolina. It was during one of the summer vacations in Morehead City that Ed and Cousin Len, just to humor Millie and Cousin Jane, put in a low-ball offer on a big old house down the street from the rental. But the bid is accepted, and our future changes forever. We now own a rundown house on the coast of North Carolina, but live in New Jersey with Ed commuting to work into Manhattan. Ed and Millie have long talks about the family's future. Ed has been offered a prestigious and lucrative promotion that will have him traveling the world while leaving Millie home with the kids. So instead of taking the promotion, Ed and Millie decide it's time for Ed to retire at 45 and do something that allows him time to paint. They purchase DG's gift shop on the waterfront in Morehead City, and the family moves to the coast of North Carolina. Running the gift shop allows Ed time for painting. Living by the water serves as inspiration for his paintings, and DG serves as the personal gallery for his work. The rest of us take turns working at the gift shop and making stuff to sell in the shop. Everybody loves living at the beach. With the family grown, Millie finally gets to start painting. Ed excitedly wanted to teach her watercolor, but Millie refused and wanted to find her own way, her own style. Ed and Millie started attending painting workshops, combining their two passions, travel and painting. They find a painting workshop in Cornwall, England. It was on the coast, 3 meals a day provided, housed in the artist's home, and outside painting every day. They fell in love with the Mounts Bay Art Center in Cornwall and returned there for over 15 years. There they made lifelong friends. When they heard of an old fishing village in North Yorkshire that had been attracting artists since the 19th century, they decided they had to explore that area. There they stumbled on a tiny miner's cottage in Cowbar with a "For Rent" sign in the window. The cottage was perched high on a cliff with an incredible view of Staithe below. This miner's cottage became a favorite annual painting destination for the two of them and their friends and family for years to come. Their travel paintings sold in galleries throughout the state, which allowed them the ability to travel more. They traveled with their painter friends and family to England, France, Morocco, Turkey, Greece, painting everywhere they went. Ed was well known for his coastal scenes. He loved the light by the water. He loved the shrimp boats and their riggings. He was at home anywhere in the world if it was on the coast. Millie's work was very different from Ed's. So while Ed was a master of transparent washes, Millie loved to paint brightly colored patterns with watercolor. Hanging out with artists means you might be painted by them at some point. Here are some of the ones of Millie and Ed painted by their painter friends. Chapter 4, The Voorhees Family Art Show. Ed had long wanted to host a family art show as a way of gathering the clan and sharing the varied talents of those working in the arts. We were scattered, living in various places along the East Coast. The show would bring us back to our family home in Morehead City and showcase our work together as a family. Home shows were a new idea at the time. This was a glorious affair involving work by many Voorhees family members, cousins, and family friends. Extended family even came for the weekend to help with food, flowers, and setup for the event. This was our first Voorhees Family Art Show in 1998. Ed passed away later the next year, but we realized that he had created something special with that show, and the Voorhees Family Art Show continued. We continued the show in Morehead City, and some years even hosted two shows, one on the coast and one in Asheville. That was a crazy idea. Then in 2003, Millie relocated to Asheville to live her final years down the street from Jane and Susan, and the show has been in Asheville ever since. Through the years, the show has been hosted in one of several Voorhees family homes in North Asheville. We have been in 6 different houses over the years. This is an extremely generous commitment on the part of these family members. Setup involves moving out most of the furniture in several rooms and transforming the space into a gallery for a 2-day event. We are forever grateful to Millie, cousin Marion, and siblings Ted and Susan for the use of their homes over the years. Participants have been numerous: immediate family, extended family, family friends, and now the youngest member, Seamus, the great-grandson of Ed and Millie. In 2007, Millie passed away shortly before the family art show. But Millie was a big believer in the show must go on, and the show did go on that year in her honor. This year is our 23rd Voorhees Family Art Show. Each one has been a tribute to the gifts given to us by our parents, Millie and Ed. Their legacy of doing what they love and having fun doing it is a bit of what we hope to share with all of you through our annual family show. Thank you for listening.